Looking back at the cinematic shape of a year, I like to start with what genre had the best year. Maybe you can't say 2025 was the year of insert hyper-specific subcategory here, but generally there's at least one kind of movie that had a better batting average than the rest. And in 2025, I think it was horror. Scary movies come in a lot of shapes and gross sizes, and this year's crop yielded a good example of most of them. Danny Boyle went back to his zombie-infested UK with 28 Years Later and The Promise of the Bone Temple. We got fabulously fun body horror from real-life married couple Alison Brie and Dave Franco in Together, while some of our greatest directors got in on the act as well, with Steven Soderbergh's haunted house thriller Presence and David Cronenberg's, well, David Cronenberg as hell, The Shrouds. We got not one, but two entries from Oz Perkins, even though your mileage may vary on the keeper, but he's still an interesting dude. While sequels had a great showing too, with Black Phone 2 and Final Destination Bloodlines. Even Five Nights at Freddy's made a bunch of money again. Hell, we even got the best ever horror film from the perspective of a dog this year. Horror fans ate well in 2025. Michael and Danny Philippou followed up their incredible debut with another banger in Bring Her Back, while Zach Kreger's second film, Weapons, cleared the very high bar set by his first. And truth be told, Weapons might have lapped the field here if it didn't finish a creepy kid's nose behind our pick, Ryan Coogler's Sinners.
Y'all wash these floors?
Yeah. What was on them? I thought y'all was dead set on buying the place. More time I spend with y'all, the less sure I am you boys are serious about it.
Ain't no boys here. I'm just grown men. With grown men money and grown men bullets.
Michael B. Jordan in his dual leading roles, the 70mm film grain aesthetic, the southern fried vampire narrative, the cosmic musical interludes through time, Sinners, like the horror genre in general this year, did a little bit of everything. A gorgeously shot period piece about twin brothers returning home from their notorious adventures in war and crime, this movie would be good even if that was all it was about. But by the time the vampires show up in the vampire movie, they escalate an already emotional journey through the Jim Crow South of the 1930s to a violent and bloody affair that's somehow also perfectly imbued with music. The supernatural elements of Sinners get highlighted with ancestral music from the heroes of the story and the vampires in a way that's truly unique, spanning generations, all the while draining each other's blood in increasingly profane ways. And, if you were lucky enough to see it in 70mm, it just looked like nothing has in quite some time, making it my favorite horror movie of the year. Let's get some unpleasantness out of the way before we go too much further and go from what worked best in 2025 to the genre that really didn't. This year, the blockbuster didn't fare too well at all. There were some thrilling moments here and there, of course, but the popcorn mainlining buy the whole seat but you'll only use the edge of it tentpole movies left a little to be desired. The Capes had a just okay go of things, while the MCU got reacquainted with Marvel's first family and introduced us to new asterisk-less Avengers and a brave new Captain America. DC fared better with James Gunn's Superman kicking off his new DCU, but I'll probably talk more about that later. However, most of our tried and true blockbuster franchises really kind of stumbled. It turns out that Mission Impossible will self-destruct in 8 movies, and Jurassic World can only be reborn for the first 7 or 8 minutes of runtime before it falls back into the same old stuff. And while Avatar: Fire and Ash is every bit the good reason to see movies on 7-story screens wherever possible, it was also pretty clearly the weakest entry of the 3 Avatars. Strangely enough, the best that long-standing film franchises had to offer this year was on TV. If you'll allow me a small screen tangent for a shout out to all the great stuff that was streaming this year, Alien Earth was a goopy xenomorph blast, Peacemaker gave us dueling John Cena's, and Pennywise scared the crap out of us for 8 episodes instead of just 2 movies. Pluribus, The Chair Company, Season 2 of Severance, The Pit, The Studio, The Rehearsal, my god, the idea that Sully was listening to Evanescence, Adolescence, Task, you can rattle off a dozen great shows that make a good case for TV having the better year in general.
After 487 seasons, they've still got it.
But this section is about blockbuster movies, and this tangent was about franchises on the small screen. So my sub-pick honorable mention for number 9 is going to Andor Season 2. A prequel done absolutely and impeccably right, Tony Gilroy, Diego Luna, and company took us all to dramatic irony school, crafting a compelling story with a bunch of characters whose fate is already known. The banality of the Empire's evil is on full display in a political drama that would have felt at home set in any time period, much less a galaxy far, far away, and crescendos in an amazing sequence of wanton destruction on Gorman. It really was the best that any blockbuster franchise has mustered in the past couple of years. But we lean towards the silver screen here on Cinefix, and even though there's part of me that wants to reward the chicken jockeys out there for Minecraft being a movie that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but you can't say that Jared Hess and Jack Black didn't absolutely understand the assignment. No, instead I'm giving it to a legit movie star-led, big, loud, fast, plugged into the driver's seat ride of F1 the movie.
Why has he got a helmet?
Safety?
Joshua, your seat is safe, okay? Son is here for the audition.
When was the last time you won a race?
Sunday, Daytona?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Formula One.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then same as you.
Brad Pitt is one of the last true movie stars left in the business, and Joseph Kosinski borrowed some practical filmmaking daredevilry he learned on Top Gun Maverick from one of the other last true movie stars to create a movie that you just kinda had to see on the big screen. Innovative camera placements and actually being on the track with real F1 racers for parts of production were only part of the appeal of this movie. In some ways, very few of them bad, this was a paint-by-numbers sports flick, but it had a veteran swagger and gained small points in crucial spots to keep it running ahead of the pack, just like its main character. Most importantly, it was a movie designed to put butts in seats. And what is a blockbuster supposed to be if not that? While we're in the blockbuster neighborhood, we may as well pop by and check on its neighbor, science fiction. While the word epic gets pretty easily tacked onto sci-fi in a logline, the best science fiction this year was smaller. Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 was a strange blast of futuristic satire, while The Long Walk's bleak countryside is a far cry from a usual sci-fi setting, but I think it still counts here. Companion took an AI's perspective on the modern world we're barreling into, while Bugonia let its sci-fi flag raise slowly. Predator Badlands was another great laser-guided weapon in Dan Trachtenberg's ever more impressive arsenal, but it's going to be hard to give the sci-fi category to anybody else in a year where Guillermo del Toro adapted the original piece of science fiction with Frankenstein. A passion project for one of our generation's greatest working filmmakers, Frankenstein is a match of artist and subject that makes almost too much sense. Del Toro's luscious production design and Jacob Elordi's superhuman monster would have been enough, but Mia Goth's wardrobe is worth a Netflix subscription on its own. Frankenstein is a classic tale that's been told a million times over the past 100 years, but it's that kind of familiarity that really highlights the work of a great director. The flourishes added by Del Toro stand out all the bolder because we know this story. There's a special kind of confidence in taking on a classic, and this one is on the same frequency as Francis Ford Coppola's take on Dracula, a faithful adaptation of a classic work, adding all the style the director can muster while letting the substance of the text speak for itself. To be perfectly honest, I had this list organized a little differently, but now it's impossible to not segue directly from that point about Frankenstein straight into remakes. It's a debut from my year-end lists as a category unto itself, but they've been such a ubiquitous part of our Hollywood diet for so long, it's well past time they showed up. Frankenstein, of course, gets a shout here, but we've talked about it enough. Spike Lee picked up a Kurosawa classic, gave it a Prince-inspired title with highest to lowest, and gave us another remarkable Denzel Washington performance along the way. The War of the Roses got an underrated new spin with one of the most charming comedic ensembles in the last few years, and Edgar Wright revisited The Running Man's Stephen King's source material more so than the Schwarzenegger film, while the animated to live action trend continued with a 1-to-1 remake of How to Train Your Dragon that I was surprised my daughter liked so much. But where remakes are concerned, I have to give it to the aforementioned Superman.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for
I don't
what
know if
some
it's a
might.
lot of fire,
It's
but-
a lot. Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions in Bravia. That's funny.
It's not funny. It's just, I mean, come on. My actions? I stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
It's honestly a little easy to forget that superhero movies are also, a lot of the time, remakes. Generally, we call them reboots, and I suppose there's a distinction in there somewhere, but that feels like hair-splitting for the sake of it. James Gunn remade Superman, not just in the sense that he made a new movie about the character, but the 2025 version of The Last Son of Krypton was remade in a new image as well. David Corenswet's warm and genuine Kal-El is a far cry from the brooding Henry Cavill version from the Snyderverse. And Gunn's film managed to be all about Superman's origins without actually telling another origin story. If nothing else, Superman is more proof that characters like this can change to fit the times, to tell the stories that need to be told in any given year, and be remade in the image of the heroes that are needed.
Not the hero.
No, don't play that. Don't play that Dark Knight thing. I know it's DC. I don't care. For number 6, I've got no real segue here, so let's just start talking about cartoons. Animation had a very interesting year. A lot of the usual suspects dropped a lot of their usual fare. Disney dropped a sequel to Zootopia that I think was more fun than the first, and a prequel to The Lion King from Barry Jenkins that was way better than I expected. Their colleagues at Pixar gave us Elio, full of the animation pioneer's signature heart, while DreamWorks gave us a sequel to Bad Guys 2, which continued a trend of big-ticket cartoons with innovative art styles. But there were a handful of surprises as well. I did not have a good Looney Tunes movie on my bingo card, but The Day the Earth Blew Up was a lot of fun. And Arco, which technically gets a wider release in 2026, was the answer to what if Hayao Miyazaki made Interstellar? And he can't tell the story of an animated 2025 without K-pop demon hunters in the mix, or some huge anime hits that broke into theaters here in the West like Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man. Meanwhile, Neisha 2 became the highest grossing movie in China ever. However, where animation that surprised me is concerned, I'm going with the big franchise on the small screen again, and Predator: Killer of Killers. As part of Dan Trachtenberg's job as keeper of all things Yautja, Killer of Killers was the secret Predator movie we were promised a few years back. An animated anthology in 4 parts, Killer of Killers followed the centuries-long hunting spree the titular aliens enjoyed here on Earth, before dropping a fairly major bit of lore on us in a post-credit scene. But that's not why I want to talk about this movie here. This film and these vignettes are some of the best action choreography in recent memory. Not only is the fighting cool, with inventive ways for the predators to kill their prey, but all of the action is so perfectly tied to emotion. There is cause and effect, setup and payoff with everything in this movie, so much so that it's worth studying. Take, for instance, the sword in the railing in feudal Japan, the notch in the wood that symbolizes the wedge driven by a shogun between his 2 sons, and the bitterness held for decades, and the way that notch plays into the fight between the brothers is perfect. It's wordless, emotional impact, and for it to show up in an animated Predator movie of all places is reason enough to make it my pick for one of the best animated movies of the year. Alright, enough of this big movies is all I've talked about so far bullshit. Let's see about some low budgets here at the halfway point. Independent films are a much-needed addition to the balanced cinematic diet, or as independent as we can get them in these trying times of corporate consolidation. But that's a different video/article altogether, so let's just go with small movies. We're looking for small movies, off the beaten path, even if Focus Features is technically a Comcast company. This year, The Ballad of Wallace Island was a heartwarming bit of comedy worth going back to if you missed it. Lynn Ramsey continued her fascinating run of atmospheric dramas with Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence in Die My Love, which was only part of what was a great year for movies about how hard it can be to have kids, which continued with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which was as difficult a movie to watch as I've ever seen, with an incredible performance from Rose Byrne. And the way you never see the kid's face. So good. Sorry Baby is an incredible dark comedy from a first-time director in Ava Victor, who also wrote and starred in it, but my favorite indie of the year was actually Nia DaCosta's Hedda.
Judge Brack! You're a bit early for a party, aren't you?
Buying you this house, Mrs. Tesman.
Shall I punish you?
Don't point that thing at me. Are you out of your bloody mind?
Oh no! I didn't hit you, did I?
Did your husband know you're up there?
Ask him yourself.
Based on a 19th century Russian play, Hedda stars Tessa Thompson in a nightmare of privilege and plotting at a country estate. Hedda is gorgeously shot, using the halls of the house to create frames within frames, highlighting the layers of motives and agendas conflicting throughout a debaucherous party. Thompson is predictably great in the title role, making the most out of a character known as the female Hamlet, flitting between a victim of her time and a proper villain. There's a touch of horror woven throughout the film as well, a sense of something terrible always about to happen that you might both recognize from DaCosta's work on Candyman and be looking forward to from her work on 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. The point is, Hedda is an absolute blast of bad people doing bad things to each other, proving that the classics can still resonate, especially with a modernization as sexy as this one. Alright, we've been at this for about 2,600 words. It's time to get some laughs in here. Let's talk about the year in comedy. There were a lot of funny movies, but it would be hard to describe 2025 as a great year for comedy. Novocaine, for example, was a solid blend of action and romantic comedy, while Good Fortune gave us a funny, R-rated Keanu Reeves role we didn't realize we'd been praying for. Wes Anderson's latest, The Phoenician Scheme, was every bit of his trademark quirky posturing and a good time that didn't quite live up to the auteur's best, while Friendship proved Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave brilliance can be expanded to a feature-length runtime. If there was a trend in comedy this year worth pointing out, it may be the year of revisiting the classics. The Naked Gun got a Liam Neeson-led sequel that was okay, while Anaconda, of all things, got a comedy reboot as well. Of course, Spinal Tap's end continued in 2025, making us ever more grateful for the work Rob Reiner shared with us over the decades. But for our number 4 pick, we're going with a quieter approach to comedy, and the love letter to inconsequential baseball games, Eephus.
The Eephus makes him lose track of time. It's pretty mean that way.
I like that. It's kind of like baseball. I'm looking around for something to happen. Poof, game's over.
Making the festival rounds in 2024 and releasing this spring just in time for baseball season, Eephus is the story of a small northeastern men's baseball league playing its last game before their field is bulldozed to make way for a new school. Outside of the 9-inning structure of the baseball game itself, there's little more than that narratively, leaving us with just a slice of life to ponder things like getting older, and unwritten rules, and adult friendship, and rare, slow pitches that shouldn't work but do. The movie's namesake, a rare, slow pitch that shouldn't work but does, is such a perfect metaphor for the topics Eephus concerns itself with. But it also seems to be the rule with which director and co-writer Carson Lund approached the making of the film. There's a skillful observational perspective at play, never rooting us fully in the shoes of any of the characters, but watching like the random onlookers pausing to wonder at the middle-aged non-athletes dedicating themselves to a meaningless baseball game. We are only meant to witness the goofy, trash-talking, and achy knees. There's nobody to root for or against, nobody to be mad at or hopeful for. just a charming moment in time that's ending. It's funny and sweet, and like the titular off-speed pitch, you just have to wait on it until it's past.
You play ball, kid?
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Don't.
Next door to laughing at something is being thrilled by it. It's the same set of muscles, I think, and like the year in comedy, thrillers did alright in 2025. Rian Johnson's third Knives Out installment, Wake Up Dead Man, went back to the thrilling Agatha Christie roots that Glass Onion was kinda lacking, while Catherine Bigelow revisited her Zero Dark 30 vibes with the very solid A House of Dynamite on Netflix. Darren Aronofsky is always worth a watch, as he was with Austin Butler in Caught Stealing. Edward Berger is earning that status as well, as I couldn't wait to get my eyes on Ballad of a Small Player. But for our pick in the thrillers category, I'm going with a different trusted hand in the director's chair, and Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag.
We have a game.
Oh, shit, Remy.
I don't think I'm willing to submit to this.
And here's how it works. We go around the table and George will ask each one of you a question. And if you get it wrong, you lose.
This is inappropriate.
And the loser doesn't get up from the table.
There's something so calming about a bunch of physically attractive spies doing spy shit together. There was no way I wasn't going to love Black Bag. It's comfort food, as much as any chicken soup anybody's grandma could make. But in the hands of Soderbergh, this particular bowl of British accented mac and cheese is stylish and sexy, full of teases, setups, and double crosses, flashed in non-linear cuts. For me, it's also a benchmark of a movie, from a filmmaker whose fluency in the language of cinema can't be topped. Even if Black Bag isn't a quote-unquote great piece of cinema, it's worth highlighting because there's no reason why every movie should not be this good. It looks incredible. The story is an efficient 90 minutes, bookended by equally tense sequences around a dining table in which every character is clearly drawn along with their motivations. It's part Bond, part Tinker Tailor, part Ocean's 11, and just as good as any of them at their best. There's nothing this movie doesn't do exactly right, and it was my favorite thriller of the year. Winding down our list, we can't forget to head overseas. Which sea? It doesn't matter. Let's just tap into our inner subtitle enthusiast and take a look at the international cinema we were gifted with this year. Good news is there are a handful of rightful claims to this category, and were it not for the way we break up our movie lists, categorically and unranked, several of them may well have been more than an honorable mention by now. No Other Choice is exactly the kind of darkly funny film we're lucky to get from Park Chan-wook, lending a bloody and literal approach to getting the axe. While Brazil's The Secret Agent brings maybe the best Wagner Moura performance we've seen so far, and a slick, stylish energy to the political thriller. From Iran, It Was Just an Accident is an incredible work of defiance that's devastating throughout, and there were some decidedly more artsy indie entries from Zambia by way of the UK with On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, or China's Caught by the Tides, a film made from decades worth of randomly shot footage assembled into a feature film. Scandinavia gave us The Ugly Stepsister and some truly gnarly body horror that would have been a fine choice way back in number 10, but we're going to a different Norwegian film for this pick, and Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value.
Hun lurte på om huset likte best å være lett og tomt, eller fullt og tomt. Om gulvplankene likte å bli tråkket på. Om det kilte I veggene. Gjorde det noen ganger vondt?
It seems there was a vein of films this year about parenting that spanned the globe. Sentimental Value's contribution is couched in the pursuit of art to the detriment of the artist's familial relationships. I admittedly don't have a lot of patience for movies about the healing power of art. They just don't normally speak to me. But what I found great about Sentimental Value is that the art was never the thing. It was just incidental, sat next to the necessity of understanding each other. The visual storytelling at play was truly brilliant as well, with one of the best cold opens to a film I've ever seen. Trier uses a house as something alive, a thing that feels and wants, and more importantly, bears witness to the events that take place within its walls. The characters, and oftentimes the camera, float through the rest of the film while things are happening to them, framed from the perspective of the house, through windows and doors. It's a thought experiment that gives context for our lives through the lens of something lasting and permanent that is strongly punctuated by sudden cuts to black, like memories being strung together, stream of consciousness style, with little gaps in between them. Trier even gives the house its own kind of ending, one which I felt every bit as much as the journey of either of the two leads in their fantastic performances. And here we arrive at our final stop. Number 1 on the call sheet, number 1 on this movie list, the prestige drama. The most nebulous and frustrating category where all the Oscars go to run around free with all that space up there on that farm. They really are happier up there. For all the Oscar bait eye-rolling one can throw at this know-it-when-you-see-it type of film, at the end of the day, they are just really good movies that, through some alchemy of A-list performer or upstart auteur, have set themselves apart from the field. This year's Shakespeare-based drama comes in the form of Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley as Mr. and Mrs. the Bard, dealing with the loss of their son through the healing power of art. Joel Edgerton quietly ponders existence as a logger in the early 1900s of train dreams. Both Safdie brothers went out on their own to give us Marty Supreme and the Smashing Machine, while Ari Aster gave us a COVID-era Western, earning a critical response as split down the middle as the time in which it was set. But it deserves a mention here either way. Nuremberg scratched that watch a war movie with your dad itch and looked great doing it, while most of our other choices from previous categories are going to enjoy a productive award season as well, but the most likely to collect all the trophies has to be Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another.
We have trouble ahead, and the road isn't clear.
Wait, excuse me? Who is this? Who is this?
I need the greeting code, Bob.
Oh, well, I don't remember the greeting code because I got a little bit high. And it's been years, so you got to help me out here with this. I don't know.
You're going to have to think.
Right.
PTA's One Battle After Another is, without a doubt, an epic. Not only does the film bounce ahead through time from one generation's fight to the next, the movie does a little bit of everything from a nuts and bolts filmmaking perspective as well, making it fascinating to sit in front of for all of its 2 hours and 40-odd minutes. It was shot mostly in VistaVision, featured one of the trippiest car chases ever put to film, alongside a sparse score from Johnny Greenwood that builds impeccable tension with minimal piano. The villain chews insane amounts of scenery in service of an organization that's just as bonkers, while the hero does screwball comedy that would make his girl Friday proud. Take, for example, the stretch of One Battle where Leonardo DiCaprio's Bob Ferguson first gets the call that his daughter is in danger. From here to the moment he falls off the roof is a continuous 30-minute sequence of terror, comedy, stress, frustration, and absurdity. The pace is unbearable. The struggle is playing out on 3 different fronts. The anxiety is a blast, and that's the entire movie in a nutshell. But the real brilliance of One Battle After Another is how much fun it is, while the subject matter is anything but. It's bad out there, and it's hard to know what we're supposed to do about it. But One Battle After Another says there is love and purpose out there in the meaningless chaos, and that's a reassuring thing. One Battle After Another is a masterpiece of the craft and a story told in the right time and place, which is why I think it's one of the best movies of 2025.
Viva la revolution!